Hi everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. You're here for Christmas in July, idea number 3. And what I'm going to do is do some napkin decoupage on these blocks. Now, these, I have 6 of them. They spelled out the word spring. I got them from the thrift store for 50 cents. But they're hollow, so they're really lightweight. But they can sit either on their sides or on their ends. And it's just easy way to make a cute little decorative piece. If you don't have these hollow blocks, that's perfectly fine. You can use like a chunk of a 2x4 or a chunk of a 2x6. Just depends on what size your napkins are. But napkins are thin and they show through once you get them decoupaged. So I am going to paint my blocks out white, and then I have several napkins that I got on clearance after Christmas last year that we can use to decoupage onto these things, and they all kind of coordinate. And I have this one in case I need to patch in a little extra to cover the block. Okay, now these are hollow, so I can't cut them to be the exact size of the smaller napkins, so I'm just going to have to go with it. If you have a 2x4 that you're, a chunk of 2x4 from the scrap bin, absolutely go ahead and use that, and I'm sure that would work out just fine. I'm thinking these would be really cute on a tiered tray or on a shelf. You don't have to get a perfect coat of paint on here because it's going to be covered by the napkin, but you do need to make sure that, like the R and the G and the S here, that they're not bleeding through. You don't want a big ol' S or some kind of random letter showing through your napkin when you get it all done. You never want to put a second coat of paint over a wet coat of paint, so make sure that you take the time to dry it or to let it dry. I'm going to be using my heat gun tool. You can use a hair dryer for this, whatever you have. Okay, I think it takes longer to dry the paint than actually apply it. Okay, I'm going to give these a second coat because I want to make sure that these letters are not going to be seen through my napkins. I forgot to mention, I am using the Waverly chalk paint in white from Walmart. The next thing we need to do is to prep our napkins. So I'm going to put these aside for just a second. And I'm going to start with this one, mostly because it's like just about perfectly right sized for this. So some of the napkins have print all the way around them, all over them. Some do not. So I'm going to, you have to prep this by taking the 2 plies apart. Napkins are always 2, sometimes 3 plies. I've never seen one that's just 1, unless it's meant specifically for decoupaging, and then they're really expensive, but they only come in 1 ply. So you don't have to do this part. This is the hardest part of this whole napkin thing, is getting the 2 napkin plies apart. Usually I just kind of crinkle up a corner and that will help give it a little bubble, and then I can get my fingernail in there, but this one does not want to come apart. So I've got a little bit. Do this slowly because sometimes they're really well stuck together and you can tear your napkin. You don't want to do that. So go slow. Okay, so that's one of them. I've put my block on and I've brought up the edge so I know where it needs to hit, and I know where it needs to hit over here, and I'm going to cut my napkin, and it's going to be a little bit bigger than it needs to be, and that's okay. You can take it off as you go through the process. But to not have enough napkin on there, that's a bigger problem. All right, and then I'm going to, I can see my creases here, so I know that that's my center. And I'm hoping, okay, it'll be a tiny bit off center once it's done. So we're going to go with right to the edge on this side. And this one will be a little over, and I'll trim it as I get there. So I want this to match up as close to the middle as possible. Well, I could just overlap it and call it good. Except for it doesn't match up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep all 3 napkins, and then we'll go from there. And then I have my reindeer. Now he's only printed on one side, so this will be a little more challenging. And he might not fit on the block now that I'm looking at him. Oh, he tore. And now that's tearing. Okay, let's see. Nope, he's not going to fit on the block, so we're not going to do this one. I found the little red farm truck napkins that I had gotten last year at Big Lots. So these ones were really cool because they were printed on all 4 corners of the napkin. So you got 4 trucks to work with on each one. So I went ahead and prepped that. And it's barely going to fit on here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off this bright red edge. Okay. Now, I'm going to set the truck aside, and I'm going to work just on the block at this moment. And I only want the block to be red. I don't want this snowflake on here. So I'm going to cut along the line, cutting off the snowflake. I'm going to do the truck one first because there's going to be an extra step on that one. And so if there's going to be an extra step, it needs more time to dry. I just use a regular paintbrush for my Mod Podge. A lot of people prefer foam brushes. I absolutely hate foam brushes when I'm doing napkins. We are going to start by putting a nice coat of Mod Podge on the sides and on the front. Make sure it's a good thick layer. With napkins, I just like to have a thicker layer than with paper because I want that Mod Podge to just soak into that napkin. I'm going to line it up on the bottom edge, and I'm going to just press the napkin in. Don't run your hands over it and drag it. Just press. If you drag too much, you're going to get wrinkles because the napkin will stretch. So I'm just pressing it, and you don't want to be pulling it up like I'm doing either, because you're going to get wrinkles. Hold it up and just press it down as you go. Gently. A stretch right there. Okay, so press it down, and then pick it up and press down the edge And then I'm going to cut it off. A little bit bigger is fine. Okay. And then I need to clip the corners here so that it can curve down. Okay. And I'm going to cut this off at the corner and cut this tab off at the corner. Okay. Now I need to try to match up. We need the dark stripe. If you look here, this next square is the dark black. So I'm going to cut my napkin at that dark spot and line it up. Press it down into the glue, and then I'm going to cut this off at the edge of my block, and I need to line up a little bit more. So I need the dark stripe out again. So I'm just trimming along the dark, and then I can piece that, matching my corners, and push it down. Okay, then I'm going to trim this at the corner. And I'm going to trim this corner as well. Okay. And trim this edge. The nice thing about napkin decoupage is that you can piece it together and the seams mostly disappear. Not completely all the time, but mostly. Okay, that side's pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and lean it up there. And I'm not real happy with how crooked I cut that. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little more Mod Podge on this side because it's drying on me. And I'm going to end up overlaying this napkin over, the 2 coats of it. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to match up. See where this little black part is? That's a little extra stripe there. I'm going to line that up, press it down, and then taking my scissors, I'm going to cut all the way along the bottom. So now I've got the whole front side of my block covered with napkin, and starting with my sides, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat over. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll show you what I need to do to it in order to put that truck on it. Let's move on to the next one. So for this one, I already prepped it. I cut the bottom edge off. So I'm going to go ahead and get a good coat of Mod Podge on here. That dried so fast on me. Right now it's a very hot day. It's July. So I'm just going to put Mod Podge on the the first two sides I'm going to work on, and I'll paint the Mod Podge on as I go. Alright, let's see if I can get this up a little higher here. Now, I'm going to center my napkin, my block in the folds, between the middle folds of my napkin there. And I'm going to let that edge be the bottom, or meet the bottom edge of the block. Press it down gently. And then as it rolls forward there, I'm just going to press down. Okay. It's okay that there's a little more showing at one end than the other, because we're going to decorate it up a little bit when we're all done. Okay, now I need to clip this. I'm clipping right along the edge of my block, just up to the corner. Okay, and then I need to go ahead and get this bottom side stuck, or the top edge stuck down. So I'm going to put some Mod Podge in there, roll my napkin up, press it in, and I need to clip those corners as well. Okay, so now I have these two edges glued down. The top is glued, but now these are loose, and I'm going to wrap that long edge now. So I need to put glue or Mod Podge on here. I'm going to go ahead and brush Mod Podge all over the back. I'm going to make sure I get that little edge down. Okay, I'm going to make sure this little edge is down, and then I'm going to bring this over. I could trim off extra napkin here, but I'm just going to let it overlap. I think it'll be okay. It is a little crooked, so I don't know for sure. Maybe I can find a word like snow or something to put on there. Alright, I think if I cut right here and push that down. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my scissors right up against the edge of the block. And trim. Alright, I'm going to put down my silicone mat because it's just easier to get sticky stuff off of if this decides to stick. So I'm just going to do another top coat. Now this guy needs to dry. This one's going to be a little more challenging. The snowflake is going to actually wrap. Okay, so I forgot to hit record as I was starting this one. So I took this napkin that I had taken apart and I lined up the bottom checkered edge and laid it down just on the top, and then cut off the edges and Mod Podged over the top. Okay, and then I let it sit for a few minutes, and I took the other red and black check napkin that I had cut up, and I cut edges. I cut little pieces to go on the top and the bottom. Okay, I had to overlap here because the bottom of my napkin where I glued it got really crooked and a little piece tore. So on this bottom one, I just overlapped it and matched up my stripes as good as I could. This one, I just cut as straight as I could and put it on the edge. Okay, now they're really sticky and my fingers are sticking to it. So I'm going to let this dry before I go on to doing the sides. Okay, everything has dried, and I just decided to go ahead and Mod Podge some plain, just kind of neutral toned Christmas paper on the back. So I just went with the black pine cone and sprig. Now this one didn't quite cover as well as I would have liked, but it'll be fine. It's just on the back. So now I want to take these another step. So I've got some twine. This is from the Dollar Tree. It's really thin twine. And I'm going to take and hold a piece over here, and I'm going to wrap it around 5 or 6 times. And there's like a little mess up right there. I'm going to cover that with twine. I'm not trying to be all neat and tidy with it. I just kind of want it to be rough on there. And then I'm going to grab my scissors and tie a knot. Okay, and then I didn't realize how low I am on bells. So these bells don't match, but that's okay. I'm alright with mixing and matching metals, and some people aren't. So if that bothers you, then by all means, get bells that match. So I'm going to put one of each color on each one. Alright, now this one, I want the bells to hang down. So I'm going to wrap it up a little bit higher. So this one's going to look like that. And then we have this truck. I forgot to film the footage of what I did to prep the truck napkin to be able to go over that red and black checkered napkin without it showing through. What I did is I Mod Podged the napkin to a piece of plain white copier paper, let it dry, and then I cut it out. I had to put a lot of Mod Podge onto the paper and then press the napkin into it so that I didn't stretch my napkin. So that's how I dealt with the fact that I didn't want to see the checks through the truck. Okay, and then this one will look like that. Alright, there you have it, my napkin decoupage Christmas vignette. These are going to look great on a 2-tiered tray or even just on a shelf, brightening up any little corner for your Christmas decor. I love the red and black buffalo check for Christmas. It's one of my favorites. Let me know what you're thinking about this project in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like it, and let me know, do you like the red and black buffalo check for Christmas, or do you prefer the black and white, or maybe gray and white? What's your favorite color for Christmas? All right, this has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.